So fun to see all of you joining in.
Thank you so much for all the lovely comments in the chat, everyone. So wonderful to see you here. It's so wonderful for us to be able to be connected in this way.
While we're joining, I invite you all to share where you're joining from in the chat if you feel called. No need to have anything prepared for this class other than what's going to make you feel most comfortable in the moment. Or a pen and then in a notebook if that's a way that you process. I will say one thing about meeting virtually is that we can all have our witch comforts very close to us.
Yes.
Yes, and your toddler and your family and all of it, your familiars, all with you. Welcome, welcome. We'll wait one more minute so that folks can arrive before we tune in and begin. Just making sure we can have our captions here. We've been using something to create our closed captions for us, and you know what, it hasn't been 100%, but we will have captions on our recordings for those of you who desire that. So just a quick note on that. All right, Karima, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Happy Samhain. Happy full moon in Taurus. Hi, everyone. I am so excited about this class. I wanted to let you know. I think as Edgar's going to present us, Crystal and Obsidian has been a passion for me. So I'm really excited about that. So thank you all for joining and being part of a magical circle. Karima, my pronouns is she, her, and I'm part of the committee of the Witches Confluence. So I'm really excited to be here with you. And please just take a moment if you want to add your desired pronoun in your Zoom name if you want to. You can do it by just clicking on the three dot that you have next to your face on your screen, or you can use the participant button below and just hovering over your name and selecting rename. So you're all currently muted, but when it's going to be time for question, comments, we won't mute you. Also, you can use your chat for any comments, and we have also the Q&A. Right, Casey? I don't see it.
No, we don't have Q&A on this one.
My bad. So we don't have Q&A, but we can use the chat. So you can put, if you want the letter Q, and just put your question if you want, and we'll try to track them. Also, I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are broadcasting. I'm broadcasting to you from the ancestral and unceded territory of the Ramaytush and Ohlone people. So we honor the stewardship of the land, and we honor the elders, both past and present. I also wanted to remind you that we have a beautiful, beautiful, magical marketplace. So don't forget to check it out. And I will put the link in the chat for those who are interested. So I also wanted to extend our gratitude to our community partnership for this workshop. It is House Witch. And I can see also two different people from our committee. I can see Antigone here and Matthew somewhere. So I just wanted to acknowledge them. Hi, guys. And I'm gonna pass it on to Casey to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, Casey here, she, her pronouns. If there's anything that you're feeling uncomfortable with, or you have a question for myself or Karima as the moderators and the representatives of the Witches Confluence, feel free to privately chat us. You can also send an email to info@witchesconfluence.org with the subject line safety if anything comes up for you that you would like to have addressed. So thank you all for being here. I'm so excited for this workshop as well. As a stone person at heart, I welcome Edgar Fabian Frias.
So blessed to be here. I'm so honored to be a part of the Witches Confluence. I've been looking forward to this for such a long time. And, you know, like many of the people who are a part of this, that, you know, our workshops have shifted and transformed in the ways that they were meant to show up. And I'm trusting in spirit that this is a way that this is how our workshop was meant to be. And so I'm so honored to be here in this space with you all. I just want to say thank you so much to Casey and everyone who's organizing the Witches Confluence, because I know how much work it is to make this all possible for us. So thank you so much for making this all happen. And thank you so much to Matthew Baker for this beautiful backdrop of this new moon inspired backdrop that's behind me. Just wanted to share my gratitude. I'm feeling so protected and loved in this space here. So hello, welcome everyone. Again, my name is Edgar Fabian Frias. I use they, them pronouns. And I wanted to share a little bit about how I got into working with this stone, and also just my journey into getting to this place and how this connects to my own ancestry and to my people, the Bidarica, the Bidaritari in Mexico. And so, you know, I'm gonna kind of start off by just going on a little journey where, or actually no, I wanna start off this whole thing by having us all sync together, because I feel like it'll help us all just be really connected. So I'd love for us to do a few breaths together, just to really just get in sync. So I'm gonna count to 3 and take a deep breath in as a group. 1, 2, 3. I'll do that 2 more times. 1, 2, 3. And 1 last time. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much for doing that with me. I am holding onto a rose quartz here in my hands, connecting into the heart of the earth and connecting into the heart that's connecting us all together here in this space. And, you know, I want to start off by, I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to just start off by, you know, just saying thank you again for having me here, and, you know, naming that I'm currently, you know, broadcasting from the Muskogee Creek Nation and the Osage and the Chickasaw Nation here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I'm really honored to be on this sacred land and to be a guest here, knowing that my people are from Mexico, and that there are webs that connect us beyond these systems of colonization, beyond these systems of oppression. And I think it is these webs that have really brought me to this place, this moment that we're in together. These sacred webs speak to us beyond time and space. They speak to us in very subtle moments, moments where we're able to slow down and to really join in communion with other beings. And so the beings that we're going to talk about today are crystals and stones, specifically working with obsidian. And so how I got to this point, to this moment, definitely starts with my family. So I was living in the Bay Area, and for multiple reasons that I would be, I feel in the tarot deck would be seen as tower moments that happened in my life. I ended up back at my parents' home, and while I was living with them with my partner, I started to have dreams that there were crystals in the mountains calling to me. And as a queer, non-binary Brujequis witch, I've definitely connected a lot with crystals, and I've been introduced to them by so many sacred femmes and thems who, in like underground radical queer spaces or trans spaces, underground radical feminist spaces, I've been really introduced into like working with crystals and working with stones. And so it's been something that I've, for a long part of my life, have kind of resonated with, have connected with. And so it didn't surprise me that much at that moment to receive a dream about a crystal in the mountains. I think at that point I was already kind of having so many divinatory moments, and also I've had so many ancestors have brought forward messages to me. And I feel like it was my ancestors. I know it was my ancestors again speaking and bringing forward this message. So my partner and I, we went on multiple hikes, and on one of the hikes, I found this crystal here, which I'll show. This is a very special crystal to me, and I don't know, quote unquote, what kind it is, or, but it kind of seems like it has some quartz in it. And so I found this on a walk, and I was at home with it, just kind of playing with it. And I remember I was pouring water on it, and it sent me a message. And it was the first time that a crystal had sent me this kind of message. It was like an imprint of a structure. It was information that was very much like wanting to understand. And so I started to do research. I started to kind of look into books about, how to work with crystals. And I ended up during that time talking to my father. And he said, here, what's on the screen, he said to me, your grandfather used to speak with crystals before we moved into the village. And that was one of those big moments in my life where I was like, what? You've never really brought this up before. You've never talked about this. I was raised Christian as a Jehovah's Witness. So crystals and divination were things that I had really mostly connected with, like underground radical queer spaces. So, I definitely opened up my interest, and I was like, tell me more. And it took my father a while to share more. And I definitely know that that has to do with colonization and with the ways that Indigenous knowledge is not respected or seen in the same regard as other forms of knowledge. And so I knew growing up that I was Indigenous. I knew growing up that I was from Mexico. I knew that my people were from Jalisco, from Zacatecas, from Oaxaca, but I didn't know anything about my Indigenous heritage because it wasn't spoken about. And so this comment was one of those openings. And so after, speaking with my father some more, he, started to share, yeah, your grandfather, believes that there are ancestors in crystals, that there are spirits in crystals, and that they call you to them. And so I really believe that it was my grandfather and my grandmother who had passed at that time, Don Elpidio y Socorro Frias, who called me to them and who have been in many ways connecting with me. And I even feel them present in this moment as I'm talking about this, because the veils are very thin in this moment, and we are very much with our ancestors right now. And so this is a powerful time to be working with stones, working with these energies. And, I think hearing this and hearing that, there was a lineage, a connection to crystals beyond what I had known, really opened up a whole new world for me. And so my father finally told me that we are Birarica, we are Huichol, and that there are many people in our village that work with stones, that work with crystals in many different ways. And one of the ways that stones are really worked with is, they're seen as conduits, as portals, as offerings that are imbued with energy that we're able to leave behind, maybe smuggle information into them, maybe offer another perspective and offer some healing. And so the Biraritari believe that those with the gift of sight become these ancestors, and that these stones are left in many places and they come to many people for these moments of connection, for these openings to happen. And here in this image is a really powerful stone or crystal that is honored, Tate Haramara, who is our Mother Ocean, and she is in Nayarit, in San Blas. And she's definitely a deity, and deities are also ancestors as well. There's a beautiful connection between our ancestors and the divine. And that's something that I really have felt a lot in my life. And it's felt so powerful to be able to connect more with my ancestors and to learn more about ways that I've already been hearing their messages and resonating with them. And so these crystals are many times placed into sacred spaces known as siriki. And in these spaces, there are offerings that are left. The community comes together to, really venerate these stones that are in many ways emanating information, emanating knowledge, emanating healing. And as many of you who work with stones and crystals and plants know, the magic that comes from these spaces is holographic. It is not just unidirectional. It moves beyond, back and forth through time and space across the temporal planes, and it also moves through the different parts of what in the West we've separated of the mind, body, and spirit, and also through our connections as well. And so it is medicine people that have the gift of sight who work with crystals and plants, animals and ancestors and spirits to heal and bring in the sacred information. The medicine person is known as a marakame. And that is how my ancestors spoke to me for the first time as a young person. They really said to me, you're a medicine person, you are meant to be doing this work. And it wasn't until my father finally kind of opened up and told me about our lineage, our ancestors, that it really finally made sense that something I had heard as a young person, in a dream, because it's also these messages have come to me many times in dreams, that it was coming from some ancestors who were really watching over me, who were wanting me to step into a specific place, and a place that I feel I've been able to step into more and more as I moved on this journey. And so this connection to crystals really started me opening up to wanting to connect with obsidian, with obsidiana. Obsidian has a long history in Mexico. It is called by some the stone of Mexico. There are many deposits of this stone, of this crystal, or of this glass, depending on how you want to look at it. And this stone comes from the magma. It is a magmatic rock. It comes from the middle of volcanoes, from the center of the earth, up from the middle of the earth. And inside of it, it contains many minerals that are magnetizing, that pull information. Again, they pull information out from us. They pull information into us. Again, these are holographic energies that we work with. And obsidian has a long history of being utilized for tactical magic, for healing, for energy work. And so I want to share a little bit of some knowledge and wisdom that I've gained in working with some elders of my own people, as well as other Latinx or Mexican elders and healers who've shared some of this information with me, and also in working with some contemporaneous people, some contemporaneous healers who are working with obsidian as well. And one of them that I want to just name, who's been really helpful in helping me understand the healing potential and power of obsidiana, is Ana Silvia Serrano, who lives in Mexico City. She started La Sociedad Internacional de Terapeutas Obsidiana, and it's a foundation of working with obsidian for holistic healing. And, it's called the sacred stone of the heart, and it's able to open up and draw out truth. And it's also able to kind of bring out truth from ourselves, as well as bring out truth from consciousness, from the ether. And it's also a portal and a gateway to help us connect and commune. And we'll talk a little bit more about how I've used it in the past to commune with other spirits and ancestors as well. And so Ana Silvia also believes that it is Obsidian's calling to heal the human race, and that it works on all levels at once. It brings energy out from the inside to the outside, and again, drawing on all sides. Again, these are holographic, magical entities that we're able to work with. And one thing that I thought about that feels really connected to what I've learned from my own people is that what we feel and think we crystallize into. And so I really feel like that's like a really powerful way to think about these stones, is that they hold information from the earth, from the consciousness of the plants and the animals, and also from our, the guides, the spirit guides, and those who've ascended or who've become a part of the earth. And when we connect with these stones, we're able to really feel that information, really get a sense of it. And so one of the main deities that really works with Obsidiana and has had a long history of working with Obsidiana is Tezcatlipoca. Tezcatlipoca was worshipped by the Toltecs and the Aztecs. He was a god of war and of bringing good and evil. And he also represented embodiment of change through conflict. So, he definitely was called upon when doing divination work, and doing tactical strategy making. So obsidian has been used a lot with war. It's been used a lot with finding out information about other people or other times. And the nagual, or the spirit energy of Tezcatlipoca, is the jaguar. And so, I bring this up because I think it's really important to name that these obsidian has a strong energetic resonance with these sacred deities, and that there is a long lineage of communing. So this definitely is something that, I think one thing I've been told is like, oh, these are really new ways of working with obsidian or with stones. And these are actually like ancient technologies that we're wanting to connect with now. And in many ways, I would definitely say this is the god of obsidian. I think that could be one way of looking at it. Or also, you could say that this is a deity that you call upon when wanting to work with obsidian, or it could be an intermediary or someone that you can call to support your practice. If you feel called to this lineage, if you feel like this is a part of your lineage. And so Tezcatlipoca is connected a lot to the colors black and red. Black, of course, being the color of the sacred void, of the sacred night. Again, Obsidiana is many times worked with at night. And it also, darkness and black have a sacred connection to divination, to being able to peer into the abyss. And red, is also a color that obsidian shows up in. And so right now I'm actually burning a red candle to add to the energy of the sacred. And I'll show one of the obsidian stones that I have, and we'll talk a little bit more about these stones here in a second. But red is also connected to the root chakra. And I feel like the obsidian is very much connected to root chakra energy. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But Tezcatlipoca is also connected to the night sky, to the north, to the earth, to the moon, to the ancestors, to the horned owl, so the jaguar and the owl, to night winds, to hurricanes. So these are energies that Tezcatlipoca is really working with in his own magic. And also Tezcatlipoca is seen as the unseen force behind cycles of energy, karmic debts, moments of eruption within time and space. So moments that really shift these cycles. So I think in working with this stone, it really is a reminder of how much we're able to access, to connect with these cycles, and how much they're moving through us in this moment. Even as we commune and connect with them, they're also moving to us, through us, and we're able to really intervene and come into these spaces at moments to enact our magic in these spaces. And that's definitely a big part of why I think it's powerful to work with the stone in a tactical way. And so as I was naming, the root chakra is, our base, and it is very much connected to the sacred truth of us, being one, of us being connected. And in the physical sense, it connects to our base, to our legs, to our bones, our feet, our rectum, our immune system, the feeling of protection, the feeling of stability. And the root chakra is also really connected to our tribal connection, our feeling of belonging. And some of the words that come up here are loyalty, honor, pride. So in these words, there's also this understanding of differentiation, of being connected to and also being your own unique self. That beautiful dance that we're in many ways constantly navigating. How are we able to belong, and how are we able to show up as ourselves? These are questions that I feel Obsidian is really powerful at revealing to us as it draws out desires that we have in our hearts. And so this is some information that comes from Ana Silvia, which talks about some of the magical physical healing properties of obsidian. It works with inflammation. It can remove pain or soothe pain. It helps scars heal faster and cleaner. It can absorb negative energy. It brings equilibrium to the body and to the chakra systems. And it gets energy moving. Again, it has those magnetizing elements that allows energy to move around as it needs to. It supports kind of the removing of stagnation. And that's a really big power that this stone has. And that's one of the big things that it is, when it's used in therapeutic, in healing forms, it's used to extract and draw out energies. And that is one way that we can also work with it in doing our divination work, is that it draws our energy into it. And obsidian is really powerful at purifying, at cleansing, at getting things into their sacred truth. And we'll talk more about truth in a second. But that fire energy that it's been forged in really works through this stone. And so, I think that's one of the reasons why in the past it started to be used as a portal, because people started to see the power that it has to draw in, to bring yourself into. And once you're in the void, once you're in the darkness of the obsidian stone, there's so much to explore in those spaces. And I'm excited actually that we're going to have at the end of this conversation, we're going to have an experience of working with obsidian stone. And you don't have to have one. It helps if you have one with you, but also through the power of magic, through the power of essences, we're going to be also bringing some obsidian energy into your space. But looking at some of the things that we're able to access in these portals, like look at past life information, find out information for ourselves, look at karmic cycles, meet other guides, archetypal energies. We could do some time traveling magic, going back or forward, quantum shifting. And there's also ways that the stone can help us integrate disparate energies. So energies that have been fallen apart, it helps us bring them back together with that sacred ability it has of drawing things together, of linking and connecting, forged in sacred fire. And so, one thing that I, want to bring up, and one of the reasons that I loved working with Ana Silvia, I'll go back to her image here. And this is kind of something I wanted to bring up just in general about working with Obsidian, is that there are sacred beings sometimes that show up in doing this work with Obsidian. And in one of my first experiences, when I first started working with Obsidian, I actually noticed a being, an energy being, come forward in the stone. And the moment that they came forward, they kind of just saw me and I saw them and they disappeared. And I was like, what was that? And I actually had like a moment where I was just like online, kind of like, I need to find out what this is about. And Ana Silvia actually had a long conversation on a YouTube video that she made where she talked about how when we share our sacred presence, our sacred awareness and witnessing with the stone, there are sometimes spirits that want to come forward to receive that witnessing. And that they're receiving that witnessing so that they can pass over, that they can pass on. And she shared this as like a very common thing that happens when people start to work with Obsidian. And so I named that as something that could potentially happen. And, and I think it's important to name that because I actually had a friend who had a very similar experience with Obsidian, who she also saw a spirit. And when she shared it with her roommate thought she was having a psychotic break and almost called someone to come and help her because of it. And actually, we ended up talking about this and I told her, no, this is actually something that happens with Obsidian. If you start to work with it, there can be moments where you receive these beings who need your help, who need your guidance, your witnessing awareness. Our awareness is really powerful. And I think that's something to really think about when we're working with Obsidian as a portal, that we're gifting our awareness or we're sharing awareness or communing with our awareness in this space with the stone. And so it's also important to bring your awareness back from the stone. And we'll talk about that when we actually start to work with this energy in a second. And so through the process for myself of working with Obsidian, I've been able to receive so many messages from ancestors, from guides. I received information about art pieces, about ceremonies that my ancestors have been wanting me to do. I've also been able to see visions of myself in other lifetimes. It's allowed me to reconnect with parts of myself that I did not know existed. And this is a collage that I made a few years ago after working with Obsidian. And it actually was of a vision that I received. And it was of a medicine person who was outside in the middle of the night and they were looking up at the clouds, at the moon. Again, Tezcatlipoca and Obsidian are very deeply connected with moon magic. And there was a scribe who was next to me and they were writing down all the words that I was bringing forward through my altered state. And so this really allowed me to connect with a deeper lineage, a deeper legacy that I'm connected to beyond this lifetime. That many of us who are drawn to these practices have deep lineages that are already connected to sacred ways of communing with this kind of information, with these states of consciousness. And I also put this up because I think it's important to name that when we go into altered states, when we work with stones, when we're in ceremony, we're really communing with these spaces that many times are poetic or they come forward in images. And so when we do our ceremony, I definitely want to have people spend a little bit of time to process. I think that's a really important part of the journey of working with these states and with these sacred elements, is to have time to bring things together. Because, truth can come forward in so many different ways. And Obsidian is the stone of truth, and it allows us to see things in a clear way. And this is most best looked at through a story that's been shared about Obsidian. So there's a legend that when Tezcatlipoca, the god of Obsidian, showed Quetzalcoatl his reflection in an obsidian, Quetzalcoatl was so frightened, by what he saw, and what you could see that is seeing his unconscious, his dark side, the darkness, and that he jumped into the ocean and committed suicide. And so this moment, is a moment of liberation, a movement of transformation. And I think that's one of the biggest promises that comes with us facing the mirror, with looking into ourselves, with looking into the past, with integrating more awareness of ourselves, is we're able to be liberated as we are able to be with it, to see it. It can transform us. And I do know that working with Obsidian has transformed my life, is transforming my life. And I think that's one of the reasons I've gotten so excited to share my passion for Obsidian and for working with crystals in general, is because it's been so transformative and has been so healing for myself, as well as for so many people that I've been able to connect with and to share my passion about Obsidian with. And so, as we're kind of moving a little bit towards doing something a little more experiential, doing a little bit of ceremony together, I wanted to share, we're going to be working with our awareness. So some of you may know, one of my backgrounds is I'm also a licensed psychotherapist in California. And I have a background in interpersonal neurobiology, or looking at neuroimaging research through the lens of relationship and connection. And so this actually comes from the study. The person who created this is known as Dan Siegel. They work at UCLA. And they see us, when we're in a state of being centered, of being in our kind of highest self, our witnessing self, we're in this hub that, these are kind of like the ideals, right? This is why mindfulness is a practice. This is why meditation is a practice, is, we really practice and build on becoming more open, full, more calm and receptive as we move our awareness to these different parts that we're able to touch with our awareness. And so I'll do just a little mini guided meditation here, just to kind of have us feel these different parts of consciousness at rest. So take a moment and just turn your awareness to your breath. Really feeling the sensation of air. And now take a moment and feel something tactile. Maybe you can rub your fingers together, touch a stone on your altar. Let yourself take in the sensation of touch with your awareness. And now taking a moment to smell, maybe taking another deep breath here, noticing any smells that may be in the air. And now taking a moment to listen, to notice any sounds, to seeing what it's like to move your awareness, to be with all the sounds that surround you. Now taking another deep breath here. We're going to move our awareness from these sensations to the interior of the body, taking a moment to feel your heartbeat. noticing what it's like to put your attention on your heart. And then taking another deep breath here. Taking a moment to move our awareness towards our thoughts, noticing the mental activity that we may be having in this moment. And then one last deep breath here. I want us to move our awareness to the feeling of connection that we have to one another here in this space. Noticing what it feels like to be a part of this beautiful world here. So taking a moment to come back to the room, opening your eyes if you have them closed. So I wanted to do this as a way to show how our awareness is able to move around, it's able to feel into different spaces, and it is with our awareness that we're going to be working with the powerful magic of obsidian. And so the way that we're going to be working with this in ceremony today is that we're going to be working with the powerful protective magic of obsidian and its ability to protect us as we do scrying work, or divination through geomancy is another way it's known as. And so one of the things that's really beneficial, I brought up that story of there being a spirit within the obsidian stone, is obsidian is highly protective. And so we need protection, we need cleansing when we do ceremony. And again, obsidian has those qualities already. So it is a powerful stone to be able to do ceremony with, and to be able to also do some divination work with. And I definitely love to also kind of clear the space energetically, but also just knowing that if you have obsidian, if you have the energy of the stone, you could really work with it to really clear the energy of the space as well, as a way to open up a sacred space. So in our ceremony that we're going to be doing in a second, we're going to be working with scrying. And these are some steps that I like to take when I work with scrying, when I do my own personal ceremony, my own personal divination sessions. First protect and cleanse yourself. Again, as I named, if you have obsidian, that's something that comes easy with the stone. It's really powerful to light a candle, to have a candle to let the spirits know that you're present, to let the ancestors and the guides know that you're holding a sacred space, that you're opening up a sacred portal. Candles are also deeply connected to the history of our magic, to the history of coming in together in ritual, either alone or with other people. And what happens in those spaces is that there's a sacred memory that we tap into in ceremony. Some people have called this morphic resonance. That's a form of memory. But it also, with this in mind, it also is wonderful to have a space in your house, your sacred sanctuary. I know a lot of you have created altars. So it's really powerful to have something that can build upon itself in memory. So I can work with this space, a sacred setup, and that builds a feeling of memory that you tap into. And so to actually work with the stone, you soften your gaze, you stare into it and through the stone, you breathe in with a steady rhythm, and you enlist your awareness to support you in kind of making sense of or holding the experiences that you have, knowing that they can come in through the senses, through the thoughts, through feelings of connection. There are many ways that we can receive information. They can also be visual. We can hear sounds. There's so many ways that we can receive information. And so one thing that's been really helpful for myself and something I want to invite you when you're doing your own ceremony is to name what you're experiencing. You could say it inside or outside externally. So for example, I'm sitting with a stone, I'm starting to see birds. I'll say birds under my breath and just notice what happens. And this is just a way of like validating, affirming, and kind of also unfolding into the experience of working with this stone. Notice any activity in your third eye. This is a really powerful place where you might receive sensations or messages, and write down anything that comes through that experience. It's really powerful to kind of take notes, and in between the session, as you're returning your attention to the stone or coming back. And one thing I love to do is after I've had a session, I'd love to spend some time just writing and just processing, because a lot can come forward as you're processing your experience that you've been having with the stone. Just gonna take a second here and look at the chat. Oh, thank you for writing those down. I'll show that again too. Okay. So I'm going to share how we're going to be working with the stone, but before that, I just want to see if there's any questions in this moment, or if anything that didn't feel clear, just so that before we move into being in a more ceremonial space. I'll just take a second here.
If you have any question, you can also use the function raise hand, the virtual function raise hand. And this we can see you.
Some folks are asking about using other stones in this moment or in the future.
Yeah, these are really great questions. So, so you don't have to have a stone. If you do have a stone there, that's great. If you have obsidian with you, that's wonderful. But you don't have to have a stone with you. How we're going to be working with this together is I actually have an obsidian essence. Essences are vibrational magic. They're vibrational energy that is holographic. And I'm actually going to be pouring some of this essence onto 3 stones that I'm hoping will bring this information forward to you. The first one that I'm using is a pink calcite, and I'll show that closer. And so this pink calcite is able to bring this energy out through a distance. I use this a lot in distance energy work. I also have an obsidian dolphin that will be bringing this amazing obsidian essence to all of you. And I'm also going to be working with this rose quartz as well. And I'm going to be dropping drops of this onto these sacred stones as we're communing with the energy of obsidian as well. And just looking at some of these. So what's really powerful about doing scrying work is that it's an ancient practice, and I think this connects with the idea of morphic resonance, that there are a lot of people who've entered into this sacred space and have really created protection and created a lot of support. But I also think it's important to create your own sacred feeling of protection. So whatever that means for you, and we'll be doing that together in a second. I'm going to be opening up space and creating like a sacred sanctuary here for us to all join in. And morphic resonance really just speaks to the memory, the way that when we enter into these ceremonial spaces, we're entering into the memory that is kind of, that really just builds up over time. The memory of ritual, the memory of connection to the divine.
Someone's asking if anything dangerous can happen while scrying.
Yeah, and I think again, that's part of why it's really great to do protection work when you're doing scrying. I always start by doing protection, and we're going to start by doing that together. We're going to create a sacred space together, a sacred container, to make sure that we're really holding each other as we do this. And I think we're all really powerful witches here. So I think it's really amazing that we're all coming together in this space. And so that's one of the intentions I'm going to be setting, is for us to hold this sacred container together. And also, it definitely, if you don't have the stone, I think it's also really great to work with the essence, especially if you're really sensitive to energies. Essences are really diluted energy. And so that is really powerful. And it also is really gentle on the system. And that was one of the reasons why I thought it would also be important to work with the essence, because I definitely see someone also in the chat naming that obsidian is a very powerful stone. And so it can be really intense energetically to work with. And it can also, if you have a lot of stagnant energy or energy that needs moving, it could be really disorienting on the system sometimes. And so that's why we're working with essence, because essences are really gentle energy, very vibrational energy. And I think, yeah, let me know if there are any other questions before we get started to move on to the actual ceremony. I want to make sure we have enough time to be in ceremony together.
The questions that are going to help us in moving forward.
Yeah, and I see a lot of really wonderful questions, and I'd love to kind of have some of these in the end. Also, if we'll have some time at the end also to be able to share the questions that come up,
so that we can kind of gather them for the end. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so we're kind of going to shift gears, right? We've been in like workshop. I've been talking a lot, and we're going to be kind of moving into the ceremonial portion of this presentation. So you can see here, I have an obsidian disc, an obsidian mirror that I can have here. Feel free to connect with this or don't, depending on how you feel. And I love for us to just be able to really kind of modulate our experience here, whatever feels right for you. So I'm going to start by, as I love to start with, by lighting a little bit of sage here to open up a sacred space. And to offer it up to the ancestors and the guides who I'm inviting forward to support us with this work. And if you feel able to, if you want to close your eyes, maybe move around and shift a little bit. Just start to move your awareness into the body. Noticing just how you're showing up in this moment. Taking a deep breath here. I want to name that I'm holding the bottle of the obsidian essence in my hands. If you can take a moment and just feel your hands, feel the energy in your hands. Allowing yourself to Just feel any sensations there. Just letting yourself be open to whatever comes forward in this moment. And so here I would like to invoke and invite in some sacred protection by having us move our awareness down into the earth, letting our awareness make contact with Gaia beneath us. Knowing that the earth is a great protector. The earth is powerful. And if there are any ancestors or guides, any deities you want to call forward in this moment to be here with us, any ancestors who have our highest good in their hearts, to come forward and to be here in this space. Taking another deep breath here. Going to shake up this bottle of obsidian essence here. And I'm going to start to drop it onto these crystals as you stay breathing, stay connected inside yourself. Any subtle shifts that may be happening in this moment. I'm going to count to 3. We're going to take another deep breath in as a group here. 1, 2, 3. Going to take us on a short little journey here to connect with the heart of obsidian. I want us to imagine that we are in a dark void. We are surrounded by darkness. Yet we feel a sensation of heat surround us. We look around and we realize that we are in the center of a sacred volcano. We feel the sacred rumblings beneath us of magma, of rocks shifting. We're sitting with all the ancient energies of plants and animals that existed before us. Again, in this sacred void, you take a deep breath. Noticing any sensations, any thoughts, any images or words coming forward as we sit in the heart of the volcano. We hear the rumblings, we sense the ground shaking. We start to feel the energies of the magma moving beneath us. And I'm going to count to 3. And I'd love for us to again inhale together. And in our exhale, I want us to imagine that we erupt out of this volcano along with all of this sacred magma. 1, 2, 3. Feel the rush of the magma as it moves upward. Notice what it's like to be outside in the world, to have light surround you. Feel yourself flowing with the sacred magma as it comes out from this volcano. And I want us to imagine that our magma is coming together, pulling from all the places that are connected here on this Zoom call. All our lava, our magma is flowing into the same pool of energy, and we witness a beautiful lake start to form. This lake creates a mirror that darkens and turns black. Again, taking another deep breath here. I'm going to pour a little bit more of this obsidian essence now onto my crown chakra, onto my third eye. I'd like to invite you to spend a moment sitting here with this beautiful black mirror in front of you. If it helps, you can open your eyes and stare into the disc of obsidian that is here on the screen. You could also continue to stay within with your eyes closed. And we're going to spend about 5 minutes here, just allowing ourselves to receive any messages, any information that wants to come forward from this space. Now gently allow your attention to return back to yourself. If you've been peering into the screen, if you've been connecting with your consciousness inside or with your obsidian or stone with you in person, let yourself set it aside for a moment. And I'm even going to stop sharing my screen. Let your awareness return back to your body. Let your energy come back. If you feel like your energy is still with the obsidian stone, you can do something physical, like touching yourself. You can envision yourself drawing your energy back to you, like pulling it back to yourself. You move around a little bit. Really making sure that you're drawing your energy back into your body, back into yourself. So we're going to spend 5 minutes here to do a little bit of processing on our own. If you have a pen and paper, I want you to spend some time just writing, letting yourself share or write down anything that came forward. Let yourself do any sort of stream of consciousness writing, whatever comes forward in the moment. You could also draw, you could also move around for a moment. So we're going to spend another 5 minutes here just to process that experience. And we'll come back together in a second after that. So I will let you know when we have another minute. people want to take another minute to finish writing or drawing or moving, whatever it is you're needing to do right now to process, to let this information move through you. And we'll take another minute. Okay. So I see here we have about 13 more minutes. So I'd love to just spend a couple minutes. I'd love to hear from some of you, either in the chat or if you want to unmute yourself, you could use the raise hand function that's in the participant section if you have something you'd like to share, and we can mute you so you can share with the group. Or again, if you want to share it in the chat also. And then we will definitely have a little bit of time to take some questions from folks. I see a lot of really amazing questions in the chat already. So yeah, so raise your hand in the participants if you have a question you'd like to ask, or if you, not a question, sorry, if you have something you'd like to share about what that experience was like, what you noticed. So Olive.
Hey.
Hey.
This is just like a random technical question because I'm a Virgo. Is this blue obsidian? Does anyone know? Is blue obsidian a thing?
You know, I feel like the blue obsidian might be glass. It might be a type of glass. But I've never worked with blue obsidian, but I've heard of it as being a type of glass that gets created. I don't know if anyone else knows about it. But thank you, yeah. I don't know if anyone else knows, but I've never worked with blue obsidian myself. And I have had other practitioners tell me that it's a type of glass that people create. So it might be like a man-made one.
Yeah, that's what I was leaning towards. Thank you. I'm still trying to solve this mystery.
Yeah, thank you for that, Olive.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Anna.
Cassandra Rodriguez wanted to share also her experience.
Oh, please, yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. That was incredible. First off, like I felt like in the beginning when you said to kind of go into the dark and go into the void, I felt kind of like apprehensive, like I didn't want to. And so I kind of like opened my eyes a little bit and then I closed them again. And as we went into the magma, everything changed and it became just very like there was like light like in the darkness and not to be afraid of it. And you know, as we like bursted out when we took the breath together, like the volcano like coming out, the magma coming out, my body just kind of like felt like it was like moving like a snake. And I kind of get that a lot like with meditation, but like it just felt very powerful. And it was interesting because like how you shared before, like with your grandparents and like obsidian, it's like I literally just printed out 2 photos of my abuelo y abuela. They're my great grandparents, right before this class, to put on my altar. And I could share them because I feel like they want to be shared, but this is my great grandmother. And then this is my great grandfather. And my grandmother actually didn't get to have them because they actually unfortunately died in the ocean. but they came through the obsidian stone as if like their spirit was like connected to it. And my family's from El Salvador, like half of my family, and so volcanoes are a huge thing for us, just as, you know, a lot of Central America. And just like all of the things that I've been connecting to with my lineage of like Mayan descent and the Yucatan Peninsula and like people culture like started to just come through, and they just continued to say like, you are protected, you are protected. And there's been one like elder that I've been learning from on Zoom, Nana Marina, in Guatemala. And they just continue to say like, listen to what she's saying. Like she like knows like what she's saying. So listen, all of this was coming through, and I just like came out of it when you said to come out of it, and felt so like refreshed and like pain free. So thank you. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That is so powerful and so beautiful, and definitely speaks to the magic and the medicine of the stone. And this is just a small little experience. So I really recommend, if you feel called to working with the stone, or even with invoking the energy of the stone, you know, even invoking the energy. I feel like a lot of people had experiences of just feeling the energy of the stone. That is enough, you know, as well. Being in the energy of the stone can really help you in doing divination work or connecting or communing with ancestors. So thank you so much for sharing that. Do we have another person that wants to share?
Yes, we actually have three different three different participants who wants to share. I'm going to start by CJ. She mentioned it also in the chat.
Hi, I'm CJ.
Hey.
Hi,
CJ.
I have a couple of questions about how to interpret what we see, and I guess safety practices going forward. So I saw a snake hissing with fangs out, some sort of viper or cobra, arcing over on the right side, and beneath it was a very large skull. And then the light from my red candle sort of speared down and crossed over the neck of the snake. The skull disappeared, and I think I saw one of my ancestors for the first time, which, being half Black, a lot of my ancestry is sort of just like buried, you know, you don't know it. So I could interpret that like myself as what seems right, but I wanted to know if there are different kinds of ways to interpret what we see. Like, are there resources we should be looking to find out how to interpret them? And then I can ask my second question after.
Yeah, that's a really wonderful question, CJ. I think that's something that's definitely come up a lot with my own personal work and working with Obsidian and working with divination practices. There are multiple things I can say to help you. One of them is, I feel like writing and kind of channeling can be really helpful. So I would definitely recommend writing about what you just named, all these things, and just kind of seeing what comes forward. Because many times when there's information that I receive that like is like, what does this symbol mean? Or how does this connect to me? In writing, I feel like my ancestors are able to channel more information through my own writing, and that's how I connect with it. So if some other medium works for you, so it's a way of kind of allowing that information to come forward. Another thing I would really suggest too is asking questions. You know, in building connection with our ancestors, we're able to really, you know, ask them to clarify sometimes, and that's in my relationship with my ancestors and working with them, I've been able to, you know, really have them explain certain, or help give me context. Some of this stuff doesn't have context when it's first received, especially, you know, as you're naming with different lineages connected. And so sometimes we need help to understand certain things. So our ancestors are there to help us with that too. So definitely in those spaces, feel free to ask for clarifying questions or to ask to receive information in a way that you can understand.
And I guess that was perfect, thank you. But the second and last question I have, promise, is about where to practice this. Like, if I wanted to go like do a scrying session outside under the stars, is that different than doing it like inside in a enclosed space? Like, how much does location actually matter here?
Yeah, it could be really powerful to do that outside, especially connecting with the moon, connecting with the stars. But I think one thing that is really powerful about having a space is that you build up the energy of a specific space. So even if you have a space outdoors that you work with, as you work with it, you build up energy in that space. And so that will bring more protection and also can help you get into that altered state quicker
Mhm.
because as you have a space. But I also definitely, I think it's really amazing to also do magic work where you put yourself at risk a little bit, being a little bit outside in the elements and also amplifying that energy. So just know that each of them come with their own kind of things to be thoughtful about, or to think about that might influence or come into your practice.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you, CJ. I appreciate those questions. Who's next?
Next, Olive is next. I'm gonna activate your microphone or ask to activate
We
your microphone.
already spoke to Olive. Maybe we should activate Anna.
Oh, okay. I cannot activate Anna. I don't know why. Can you do it maybe, Casey? Maybe you're the one who can do it.
Hello.
Hey.
I will share my experience. It was interesting because I felt a lot of physical things more than I saw. So my body was grumbling quite a bit. And afterwards, right now I'm experiencing quite a bit of shaking. But something that was very interesting is that my hands are very warm. And I was holding a very tiny obsidian stone. I'll share. It's very little,
Yeah.
but it also felt as if my hands were cut open. So I was feeling a wound, and I thought that was very interesting. And I wonder, I guess like the question that I wrote down for myself was whether that was something I have experienced in past life, or if that's how I share my energy, or if the work that I need to do has to do with my hands. And the one download that I did receive was that I have a very active imagination, and I believe that sometimes when I'm practicing any kind of thing, I see quite a bit. And what I got was you need to try not to see with your imagination and kind of quiet that a bit. So I felt like that was a message of how to kind of continue my own personal spiritual work. So yeah, I'm curious if you have any insight on what the feeling the physical in the hand might have been, or if that's kind of like I'm the holder of that information. Or
I definitely feel like there's probably, like a personal meaning for you, right? And I definitely feel like those two downloads that or channelings that you received, I think are really powerful to expand on or maybe kind of work with in a sense. And also I would say that obsidian as a stone that draws out energy, if there's energy that needs to be drawn out, it will find ways to get it out of the body. So sometimes it does cut or open up spaces in us. And that can come out as heat from our bodies. And I'm sure some other people maybe felt heat, or even, I saw someone in the chat say they felt a little dizzy. Those things can happen as energy moves in the body. And I think that's also why someone in the chat also mentioned starting small, and I'm glad that your piece is really little, especially if you're kind of getting started working with obsidian, just starting with a small piece to really kind of knowing that it's going to move energy and shift energy. And sometimes, that can feel like tingling or buzzing, or can feel like heat or energy. But I also I think those are really important channelings that I think would be really helpful for you to expand on or connect with more.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Do we have any more time for any more questions?
Well, I was thinking that we could just take a few questions that I've just been noticing some duplicative. We can go over these. There were some questions about, let's see here, I want to make sure I can hold on up. Just some questions about cleansing and yeah, cleansing obsidian specifically and working with it.
Yeah, obsidian is a stone that in some ways doesn't need cleansing, but I think all crystals could benefit from cleansing. I definitely put my crystals out under the moonlight, put them in obsidian really connects with the moon. I saw someone else had a question about plant spirits, plant energy. I would say like Datura is a plant that I really feel connects a lot with obsidian energy because that moon magic. So working with the moon could be really powerful at charging and also clearing some energies from obsidian. But again, obsidian is really powerful at cleansing itself. And so that's something that I think is really good to know. And again, other ways that you could do it is by meditating, by placing your energy onto the stones, by clearing them with some sacred plants or some sacred essences. So there are different ways that you can work to kind of clear the energy of stones, especially if you've been working with them.
Thank you. That's super helpful.
Yeah.
Another question that came up was, do you have any advice for folks who might struggle to get into the scrying space?
Yes, I do. With that, I just want to say that there are many ways to scry. To scry, you need a medium. And that medium can be a stone, but it could also be fire. It could also be movement of water. It could be, it can be the clouds. And so finding that medium that really works for you, obsidian for me has really worked for me because it really draws my energy into it. But I feel like everyone is different. So some people need oracular spaces to be more movement based, or so just seeing what feels right for you. And then also knowing that there might be moments where you're just like not able to get into that space and that's okay. It's just like with mindfulness, right? You can have moments where you're just like, my mind is going all over the place and I cannot quiet it down. And that's like totally part of the process. So just knowing that that can also happen as well. And also, again, I think that's why it's also great to process, because sometimes I've had sessions where I'm like, nothing came through. What was that all about? And I start to write. And then all of a sudden this like whole thing unfolds where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I didn't really realize that I was looking at something, or these images that were coming in were trying to tell me something, but I just was seeing them as like random or like not connecting with them. And so there are ways that like I think processing can really bring out more information that can be really valuable if you feel like you haven't really experienced something. But also, again, have compassion for those moments where it just might be hard to be connecting with those kinds of spaces.
Thank you. That's super helpful. I guess one last question, since I wish we could stay here all day, but unfortunately we can't. We had a question about a connection between obsidian and blood magic.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah, I don't know much about this, but I definitely have had other friends who work with obsidian and have used it with blood magic rituals. Especially with the red obsidian, or like there's like mahogany colored obsidian or earth colored obsidian too. I definitely would say the magma is very much connected to the blood of the earth. And so, and there are also other people in other cultures who use blood as a divination device as well. So the darkness of their blood can also be used as divination. So they're definitely interconnected. They're life energy that's been condensed or is, kind of brought to you to work with. So definitely, I would say if you feel called to working with blood magic, I would say obsidian could be a great ally for working with blood magic.
Awesome. I had to ask that question under the full moon.
Yes.
Ancestors are in our blood. So,
yes.
Well, I truly wish we could hang out all day.
I know. Me too. I'm so excited about what's coming. Also, the rest of the day. Oh my goodness.
Tell folks how they can continue to learn from you.
Yeah, so I have a website, edgarfabianfrias.org, and I'm also on Instagram for Edgar Fabian Frias, and I also have a sacred energy practice called Our Sacred Web, OUR Sacred Web, where I offer workshops. I work one-on-one with people. I also offer readings. So definitely feel free to look there if you want to find out more about my different practices and how you can connect with me.
Amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate all the comments from everyone. I really am feeling all the love in this room. So thank you so much, everyone.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you all for being here. I mean, this wouldn't be happening without all of you, and it just feels so powerful to be in this space together. And thank you, Edgar, for sharing your wisdom with us and sharing your ancestral knowledge with us.
Yeah, thank you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Happy full moon, everyone. Happy Witches Confluence.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.